Hey everybody, welcome. We'll be live in 10 minutes. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a very Halloween episode of Books, Universe, and Everything. Well, gotta check the audio levels always. My name is Ryan Boucher. I'm your host today, and excited to be here with some great guests who know a little thing or two about scary things and about things that go howl in the night, ow in the night, as they say. We've got Christopher Husberg, Katie Young, and Lon Franson. I want you guys to introduce yourselves really quick. Tell us why you're here and what you know and all that kind of stuff, what you do, and then we'll start talking about Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf. We'll start with you, Chris. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. Excited. I'm an author. I have a dark epic fantasy series that I've written, 5 books through Titan, and that's the Chaos Queen Quintet. So dark fantasy, but I also just finished a science fiction horror novel. So I'm a big fan of horror and scary things in general. And Stephen King for the most part. Stephen King is an interesting author, and I think he's all over the map in some ways. But yeah, overall, I'm a fan, and so huge fan of all things horror, and just excited to talk about werewolves today.
Awesome. Katie, tell us about yourself.
Gosh, hi, I'm Katie. I don't know if I'm a writer. I co-wrote a TTRPG, a solo TTRPG called Rue from Rune. That right there, with Will Munn. So co-wrote that. I also do a live play podcast with Level One Geek, part of a whole team that does live play TTRPGs, or I should say actual play. We don't do them live anymore. And I'll say self-appointed Halloween aficionado because I was born on that day, so that automatically makes me proficient.
That's
Sure.
expert level Halloween right there. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I've I've got a October birthday as well. I think that's the best month for birthdays.
It is.
Lon, when's your birthday? How old are you?
My birthday is in July. My little sister was born on Halloween. It took me 12 years to forgive her because we didn't get to go trick or treating as a consequence. No, my name is Lon Franson. You can find me on YouTube. I am in the process of becoming the world's foremost expert on werewolves by watching every single werewolf movie ever made, breaking it down and talking about the themes and characters. And so I'm almost halfway through the 350 or so werewolf movies. That's my claim to fame on this topic.
I've been keeping up on that. How are you only halfway through? You're almost into the 2010s now.
I am almost into the 2010s now. Yeah, with computers, it became a lot more possible for people to make cheap werewolf movies. That was hard to do back in the 80s or earlier. It took a real dedication to special effects to create something earlier than that. So we're getting more and more low budget, cheap CGI werewolves, which is not necessarily a good thing for my sanity as I plow through all of those.
Right. Well, awesome. That's a great project. Check it out. Check out Chris's website. It's christopherhusberg.com. Is that right?
That is right.
And
yeah, thank you.
you can check out Rue from Ruin at adepticarus.com as well. So we're glad to have everybody here today. Excited to talk about this. Let me give a brief just plot synopsis. Spoiler alert. We're going to talk about spoilers today. I think this book has been out long enough that hopefully that's all right. I'm just going to give the synopsis straight off of Wikipedia because they did a good job with it. I didn't have to rewrite it. So the Cycle of the Werewolf is set in a fictional town of Tarker Mills, Maine. Surprise, surprise. It's in a small town Maine setting for our friend Stephen King. Each chapter is a month in the calendar, so 12 chapters. It's a short book. The werewolf is viciously killing local citizens each full moon, and the otherwise normal town is living in fear. The protagonist of the story is Marty Coslaw, and we'll talk about how protagony he is in just a minute. But this is an interesting one. He's a 10-year-old boy in a wheelchair. And the story goes back and forth from the terrifying incidents in the town to how the horror affects Marty and how he's dealing with it. The werewolf attacks every month. I'm going to skip a paragraph here. And one of Marty's friends is attacked in April. A janitor at Grace Baptist Church is attacked in May. And basically everybody's attacked almost every month except for around Halloween and in July. Let's talk about July. In July, the town's Independence Day fireworks were canceled because of all the deaths. This is very upsetting to Marty, who was looking forward to them all year long. Feeling bad for his nephew, Marty's uncle brings him some fireworks, warning Marty to set them off really late so his mother will not find out. While outside enjoying his own private Independence Day celebration, the werewolf attacks Marty, who manages to put out the monster's left eye with a package of firecrackers. The werewolf escapes, and police ignore Marty's report because they're looking for a human murderer, not a wolf. Marty is sent away to Vermont to stay with family for the rest of the summer. As the year continues, the bloodshed occurs again every full moon. Fall comes, and so does Halloween. To celebrate, Marty goes trick-or-treating with his father, and while out, he sees Reverend Lowe, the local preacher, wearing an eye patch, and he realizes that the Reverend is the monster. However, Lowe does not recognize Marty, as his face was covered by a Yoda mask while they're trick-or-treating. So that tells you when this was set, back when Yoda masks were popular. Marty, whose family is Catholic, never attended services at Lowe's church, which is why he did not work out the werewolf's identity sooner. Over the next few weeks, Marty sends the pastor anonymous letters asking him why he doesn't kill himself, why he doesn't end the terror, why he doesn't do something. In December, he sends the last letter signed with his name. Unbeknownst to Reverend Lowe, Marty has convinced his somewhat reluctant uncle to have 2 silver bullets made to come spend New Year's Eve, which falls on the full moon, with him. Right before midnight, the werewolf breaks into the house to kill Marty. Marty shoots the werewolf with the silver bullets, blowing out the beast's other eye. And after the wolf dies, it changes back into Reverend Lowe, much to the shock of everyone present. So that's the plot. It's pretty straightforward. There is a lot of just werewolf killing, other things, and this actual subplot that, well, anyway, something I feel is a subplot is Marty figuring out who the werewolf is. So it's only in a few chapters, and then at the end it climaxes up to the point with with getting the werewolf. So I wanted to start with that. How did you guys think about the story not having a protagonist until July-ish? And then how does that work in? He's not a normal protagonist. So have you ever written a story like that? A short story even? I guess we'd consider this a short story even. But have you ever written that where you don't know who the protagonist is until halfway through the book? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I remember the first time I read it, I got to Marty's first section in July, and then just kind of went through. I just kind of assumed he was just another character in the book, and that we'd only move on and just keep talking about new characters. And so I was not surprised, but I guess kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, Marty's back later on when it kind of returns to him, and yeah, I think it's effective. I mean, I think it's certainly a choice you can make as an author, right? It's a pulpy story content-wise, but I think Stephen King is doing some interesting things narratively here. Like, he is withholding kind of that protagonist for a while, and he uses this like universal kind of omniscient narrator, right? It almost feels like a we. Like it feels like there's this town we that's telling the story is almost how it feels. Which I think is interesting. I almost wish he'd gone all the way there and just said, like, use the sort of plural narrative. But yeah, so I think it's fine. Have I done anything similar? Not anything exactly like this where I've kind of withheld the protagonist for so long, but I've written stories. I like to head hop on purpose sometimes in my stories, where I'll kind of like bounce from point of view to point of view in a single scene, but kind of for a reason. Usually there's some kind of narrative or magical or mystical reason why I'm bouncing from head to head. And so I've written short stories that kind of do that kind of move from character's brain to character's brain. And there's no real central character. It's kind of I don't know, cohesive experience. You know, there's no
An
like,
ensemble. Okay.
yeah, and ensemble is a great word. So yeah, so I think it's certainly a choice. It works fine here. I think I mean Marty is an interesting protagonist. I actually like Marty quite a bit. He's pretty brave. I mean, he's a tough little kid.
Yeah, that's a good point. He is a tough kid, and he is disabled. He's in a wheelchair, and he's dealing with a sister who um, doesn't like him very much at first. The beginning of
Yeah.
the book, right?
Relationship seems a little well, it's interesting. There are moments of affection between them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where
It's later on.
yeah, and it does seem to improve as the book, which I don't know if that's related to Marty's kind of taking charge of this situation and sort of owning the I mean not not just the werewolf situation he's in, I guess, but I guess maybe his ability situation. But yeah, that their relationship is interesting. There's love there, it seems, but definitely like the extreme level of brother sister like
Right,
sniping.
Yeah.
right. Um, King is really good at that. I think in other books of his I've read, he's really good
Yeah.
at characters having relationships with other characters, and that is a multi-leveled, multifaceted thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's
Kate.
not just his sister. Like his mom and dad have difficult. They love him. They clearly love him, but they also clearly have difficult relationships with him because of his disability and kind of the impact it's had. Things not like Marty's not helpless because he's disabled, but his disability clearly impacts every relationship in his life. Not always positive. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's he's out again. It's not the focus of the book, but it's there.
Yeah, like I said, King is really great at that. He has a great relationship with his uncle. You get the feeling of his relationship with all of his family members: uncle, sister, mom and dad, everybody. Katie, your game is told from the point of view of the werewolf, which is kind of what you're getting for most of this book, but until we get a protagonist there halfway through. But it's how the werewolf is going about things and what's happening and stuff. How did you feel about reading this from all of these scenes of just werewolf attack, werewolf attack, werewolf attack, kind of guessing what each one was going to be next, I guess.
I thought it was interesting. I kind of took it from a horror trope perspective in that you a lot of horror is built on the unknown, right? And we don't know the entity. We don't know what's happening. We actually know this entity before we even know the protagonists. And I think what's interesting about that is King took, like, for example, early on, the virgins don't die in horror. The virgin died in this horror. So he broke a lot of horror tropes in doing this. And by going from the werewolf perspective, he didn't give the werewolf humanity though, right? Like that is a beast for a majority of the book. It's these random attacks, but it is still breaking those typical horror tropes of people you don't see dying. Well, the werewolf's going after those instead of like having that bit of humanity that may be there in a lot of other horror things, right? So I thought it was interesting he removed a lot of that until you hit Marty, and that's kind of where more of the humanity starts. You get the longer, and that's the longest part too, right? Is Marty's July chapter. That's
Yeah.
a long part of the book, and that's where the humanity starts creeping in, because before that, to me it felt like reading kind of news articles in a way. Like, this is what happened, here's the scene, here's how they were ultimately found. Yeah, there's a little bit of this is what that person was experiencing at the time, but it was still kind of removed. So I thought it was interesting that he took those tropes and he broke them. I mean, this was written in what, 83 ish?
I didn't say that. It was published first in 1983, and then the movie was made in 1985.
Yeah.
It was adapted
So you've
into
got
the
like
movie.
those were the big horror tropey times too, right? Like if you go back and
Yeah.
look at horror at the time, I feel like, and I could be totally wrong, but it feels like King went, I'm going to take all of these and do the complete opposite of what horror is doing right now.
Right. Yeah, I think there's only a couple people who seem to be like you're kind of cheering for them to get it in typical horror movie fashion, right? And there's a lot of people that are innocent or just going about their business and don't really definitely don't deserve it. Yeah, for sure.
He kills the kid, you know, Marty's friend in April,
Yeah.
which is normally don't see, right? Kids normally get away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah, for
usually,
sure.
but especially in like 80s horror, you have the band of kids. Stephen King is known for having
Yeah.
these band of kids that kind
Right.
of come together and fight the evil together, and very quickly that's taken away from Marty. And he has his uncle, I guess, which he's certainly a confidant and definitely an aid for Marty in the story, but he doesn't have that network that a lot of kids in like 80s style horror or a lot of Stephen King's work have.
Yeah. How does this stack up? Let's ask the werewolf expert for a second, Lon. How does this stack up to other werewolf stories as far as tropes go? Let's go down this little trope
Well,
thread here.
it's interesting. I do agree. I really agree with the idea that he's breaking a lot of the tropes about victims. He kind of does so by really leaning in heavily and just letting us know this is your stereotypical cinema werewolf with silver and the full moon and a good man, to go back and quote, the wolf man, even a man who's pure at heart. But this is ultimately a priest who's doing this and doesn't even know. Geez, I'm trying to remember. It says he starts to figure it out in April, and he doesn't know for sure until July, right? When he gets his eye blown out. He spends half the year not even aware he's the werewolf. He doesn't even know. And that's so King really uses some shorthand on the werewolf side to say, look, this is a werewolf. You've seen him before. Worry about the other stuff. I don't need to take a lot of time explaining. He doesn't even explain how Reverend Lowe becomes a werewolf. Maybe it's the flowers,
Right. Yeah.
picked in the cemetery. He doesn't know. We don't know. No one knows. No one ever finds out. It's mysterious curse that hit him. Other than that, like I said, full moon. I really, really, one of the things I love about this story is how in so many movies the full moon lasts a whole week, right? Like
Yeah.
every night the werewolf's turning it. In this, it's not. Nope. There's one night a month, and so King is able to pace out the attacks a month apart and kind of build some of that tension and build some of that, especially in the community, as the community starts to realize, as Tarker Mills, the people start to realize something is really happening on the full moon every month, even if we don't understand what it is. And they start to build that tension, and people aren't going out, and it really helps sell the community angle, and the whole town is aware of what's going on, even if they can't stop it or understand it.
You said something that I wanted to talk about for just a second for anybody who's looking to write and be a writer. Chris, think about this one for me real quick. The King gets away with being able to shortcut the backstory of things because people reading this, everybody knows what a werewolf is and stuff. How much, when you're writing things, can you trust the audience to already know something? Like, how useful is it to have like an analog for people to be able to say, oh, this is just like this? Or how much do you have to explain? Like, what's the balance in that? Have you ever have you ever struggled with that balance?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think anytime, well, I think part of this is knowing sort of the genre you're writing in and the audience for that genre, right? Like, if you were to write a superhero story right now, for example, I think you should not go into every detail of this superhero story. You should skip over the parts that the audience is going to know, origin stories, first clashes with villains, even just focus on this part of your story that is unique, right? That what is interesting and unique that you have to say about this thing that's so popular right now. And you can gloss over those other things because we are very saturated with superhero stories right now. For better, for worse, right? There's a lot of great ones out there and some not so great ones, but they are out there, and we know and understand. The wide majority of people who read books, who see movies, know about superheroes, right? And that wasn't always the case. That wasn't always, or I remember the old. It was for like 10 years. Like, the whole early 2000s, it felt like every superhero movie that came out spent like 20 minutes on the origin story and whatever, and it was cool for a while, and then it was kind of like, all right, let's move on and kind of get on to what is interesting here, and superheroes have definitely, I think, moved past superhero films and stories have moved past that in a lot of ways now. Or they figure out different ways to tell those parts of the story that the audience knows so well, and they try to approach them differently, whether through a different storytelling technique or just make it very unique within, like, however they experience their origin story. It's very different from kind of the norm that we are used to. So yeah, I think a huge part is just knowing your audience and knowing what they expect, what kind of the expectations are for the genre that you're writing in, kind of tropes and conventions, and being aware of them, and mostly just trying to figure out, well, what is the new thing that I have to say here? How am I subverting this stuff, or what new things do I have to say? I think that's helpful for me when I approach that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's something you got to think about for sure.
Yeah.
Why are werewolves so cool? Why is it that we're fascinated with werewolf stories? What is it that attracts us to them? Clearly, the werewolf's not cool in this. The werewolf's the bad guy, and it's clear from the start the werewolf's the bad guy. Why is that for humanity a monster that we can that we like to read about or watch? What is it about werewolves that gets us? What do you think, Katie?
Oh, okay. I'm going to confess something. Knowing full well, I just wrote a TTRPG about a werewolf. I'm a vampire lady. Werewolves are so cool. I love them. I love vampires more. But I think what's cool about the werewolf and why people think werewolves are so cool is because it is, that whole duality of man thing. I think that werewolves take the duality of man and really separate. Here's the animalistic part, and then here's your human part. And when you transform into that werewolf, that is supposed to be that embodiment of your uninhibited, animalistic, for lack of a better term, murdery side that you can't control. And maybe this is too psychoanalyzing. But I think people like that. I think people like the idea that there's this uncontrolled aspect that could unleash a beast to do what they want. And then you come back to yourself, and a lot of werewolf lore is you don't remember what you were doing in that. Where the priest, for example, the priest very much separates himself from the werewolf. He really does think that it is the wolf that has done this. He didn't do anything. It's the wolf doing this. And I think that's why people think that's cool, is that there's this animalistic side that in theory has no consequence, because you control that? You're at the mercy of the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that werewolves and vampires are often sort of lumped together, not lumped together, but they're portrayed together sometimes. And I do think they kind of occupy the kind of opposite ends of the same space in some ways, right? Like with vampires, it feels like a lot of compelling, at least for me, portrayals of vampires are ones that, where is the monster in the human? Like, humans can be truly monstrous, and let's expose that to the nth degree with a vampire, right? And a werewolf is kind of the other end of that, where it's like, so there's this animal, right, this monster that has but is there humanity in the or is there some kind of instinct? I mean, werewolves are just like vampires. Werewolves are kind of portrayed across. I'd be interested to hear what Lon has to say about this, because there's all kinds of werewolves that have been portrayed, right, with different like personalities, or like some of them are more animalistic, some of them are more monstrous, some of them are more like pets almost, domesticatable, sort of, is I guess what I'm saying. And so they kind of occupy that same space as well. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from a monster point of view, if you want to talk about what makes the werewolf so awesome as the monster, part of it is it's a great way to have a monster and kind of have a whodunit at the same time. A lot of werewolf movies, you spend the whole movie, who is it? Right? It could be him, it could be her, it could be, and you don't know. And that taps into, I mean, even this book does it with, I forget the character's name, the one who's man who's beating his wife. Um, and like, there's a monster there and nobody else sees it, right? He's hidden. And I think there's a lot of fascination with that idea of someone who is a monster and living among us, right? And you hear all the time, they were just super quiet and I never knew anything. And then one day they snapped and did something horrible. And so the werewolf is really the cinematic manifestation of that. One day somebody who's perfectly normal just has a bad day, has a wrong encounter, and all of a sudden they're dangerous. Then, like you say, there's lots of you can cinema, and the werewolf is really varied, and so you can do Teen Wolf too, right? Teen Wolf came out, I think, the exact same year Silver Bullet did. So
Did it
it's
really?
like on the one hand,
Okay.
yeah, on the one hand, or maybe it was a year after. I'd have to go look up.
Yeah.
And Teen Wolf was made, but right, that's an example of the wolf as cool, right? As power, as kind of a power fantasy, all superheroes. I mean, functionally is just a basketball playing superhero. Van surfing. And so, and then I do think there is some power fantasy to it. Like, what could I do if I didn't have to worry about my conscience, right?
Yeah.
Jekyll and Hyde type. Yeah, Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Can we compare and contrast the werewolf and the abusive husband? His name's Milt Sternfroller. He's a librarian in the town. But we get a couple scenes with him, and you really hate him throughout. It takes him all the way to November or something like that to kill him. But he is abusive to his wife. He is having an affair, and we get a couple of scenes where it just describes, and the way he describes it too is that, like you said, Lon, it's just this hidden thing, this thing that everybody, but it's a thing that everybody kind of can see if they would look for it. They just never do. And I thought that was interesting to have this character in here that is also like the monster. And for a little while, you kind of wonder if this is the monster, and then you start to see then the priest starts to have visions, and you realize, oh, it's probably this guy. But how effective is that? Like, you often see that the hero and the villain are like two sides of the same coin, right? In here we have two characters, and they're both, one is a normal person who is out of control and abusive and terrible, and then the other one is the werewolf who is doing all these terrible things as well. Is King trying to say something there? And I hate to try and put words into authors' mouths because it's up to us to interpret it, but who knows what they meant. But what's the metaphor? What's the thing that we're getting out of that? And is that an effective? What does that do for the story for us?
I think you're dead right that he's doing that, and the character that most sells that for me is the sheriff, who even says Marty's told him, I put the monster's eye out. This is after Marty has had his first encounter with the werewolf, after he's maimed the monster and told the sheriff, you're looking for somebody who has an injured left eye. And the sheriff knows somebody in town who has an injured left eye and is like, it can't be them. It can't be them. There's nobody else it's less likely to be. And it's them, right? And that's exactly to your point, that everyone could have known about the abusive Milt, just like the sheriff could have known about Reverend Lowe and could have done something. And because he doesn't, he dies. Yeah. And I really do think that thing is intentionally contrasting those two characters and saying, yes, we don't have werewolves. We do have hidden monsters, right? That exists. That's a real thing.
Well, and even I mean, it's they are very so the characters of the priest and what was his name, Milt the librarian, right? He it seems like nobody really suspects that this guy is abusive. He's a librarian. And same thing with the priest. The priest is the priest, right? He leads the congregation. But he also, other than being the werewolf, he's not. He doesn't seem that great when it comes right down to it, right? Like he is much more concerned with finding out who knows he's the werewolf than he is with doing anything about it, right? He's vaguely wonders, yeah, how did this happen? I don't know. Doesn't cross his mind how to do anything about it or how to. I do find I do find Marty's "go kill yourself" notes a little interesting. Like, I mean, yeah, I get it. Like contextually, yes, I get it, but it's like, oh yeah, wow, that kind of thing has changed a little bit in a few decades. But yeah, like so he actually is not that great either. Even though, so both of them, yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, Ryan. They're very similar, and they both seem to have like a pretty decent standing in the community. But yeah, in their personal, private lives, they are not great. And I think certainly there's something to be said there.
Yeah. Who was your favorite? Who was your favorite character that got killed? That was the question I was about to ask. That's an interesting question. What was your favorite scene? What was your favorite one of these? Either an attack or the July thing or the October thing. What was your favorite chapter in this? What scene stood out to you the most?
I love the ending. Honestly, I think like I said, I really like Marty. Actually, I think he's a really strong protagonist. I think he's brave. He knows what he says his name. He has this clear plan. He says his name to the priest, or he writes it in the note, in the most recent note, knowing that it would kind of cause this chain of events, and he's ready and he's prepared, and he feels bad for him. Like I just think I think that's such a great scene, and told from kind of the perspective of his uncle, where his uncle is kind of observing this and is just kind of surprised. I mean, shocked by the werewolf, but I think surprised with us, with the audience, of kind of how mature and how strong Marty has to be to kind of do this, right? To confront a monster like this. I think it's really impressive. So I love the ending. I think the ending was quite good.
And I love the idea that Marty waits until it's a good shot, right? Like
Yeah,
he doesn't panic. He
he's
knows
cool.
he's only got shots. He's going to make them both count, and waits until the wolf is close. Yeah, and which is just such a sign of, like you said, coolness and bravery. And while his uncle is losing his mind and like, oh no.
Yeah.
Honestly, the one that I love the most, I don't know why, is when the pigs die. And the guy's like, I'm going to go out and save the pigs, and then here's the howl, and it's like, nope, never mind. And sits on the couch with his wife and listens to the pigs dying. And I'm like, it's so easy to think how brave you could be, and then that was just felt like such a real moment of not even, I don't even want to say cowardice, of just sensibility. Like, I don't know what's out there, but I know it's dangerous, and my life is worth more than 9 pigs.
Yeah, that's true. Like you really get a feel for what you have to think for a second. Oh, what would I really do in that chapter?
Yeah.
And I think I probably would be a lot like that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, case in point to breaking a horror trope, he's the guy that you're yelling at the screen, don't go outside. and he actually hears you.
Yeah.
He doesn't go outside.
Don't do it. And you're like, oh, you can do it. Oh,
Oh yeah, I shouldn't do that. Yeah.
me there. Yeah, great. Good job.
Oh yeah. We're on the
Yeah.
same page here.
Uh,
I liked the sheriff dying. It was just such a good, like, I think one thing that I've been reading I mean, it's October. I've been reading horror books. But one thing about horror books is when they're set in small towns, there's always an incompetency on the law enforcement. Like almost every horror thing you're going to read in a small town, the sheriff doesn't know what he's doing. And this is the same way, right? The sheriff doesn't know what he's doing. Good police work is going to solve this. And obviously he's the best at this. And then surprise, the wolf's right there.
yeah.
Yeah, like forget what was the line like at the end, like something like forget good police work, and that's kind of how it ends, which yeah, I think it's a satisfying ending for that person who thinks he knows so much and isn't going to believe that the one solid lead he has is going to do anything for him.
Right.
Just desserts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said earlier, he didn't listen. I don't remember who said that, but he didn't listen. He could have. Yeah, so that ends with so much for psychology, so much for good police work. So
yeah,
both those things he thought could help him, but nothing. That scene was probably one of the more brutal ones, where like if you were filming a horror movie, this one would be rated R part for gore and stuff. Is that scene? He really is just sitting in his car, and the werewolf just reaches in, and he's gone, and blood is flying everywhere. It's a bad one. I thought that so this is the first time I've read this book. Like I said, Lon recommended it to me, and I thought that as soon as Milt was going out of town, and you saw as soon as the preacher's going out of town for November to avoid the hunters and whatnot, and then you see him come across Milt's car in the same motel that he is staying at to have his affair. I was like, oh, come on, this is really convenient, King. This is just, that I thought I was going to hate it, but then I realized that I didn't like that character so much that I didn't mind that it was it was just totally contrived, coincidental killing, that it happened to be that kills this guy. So that was something that I thought I wasn't going to like, and then I ended up liking in the end, just because he needed to get it, and why not have it be completely ironic and
totally
random, I guess. All right, here's the part where we get a little bit critical. Any nitpicks with the book that anybody had? Anything that you would have liked to see different, or would have done different, even if it's just, I mean, I hate to say that, like, I think Chris said it the best at the beginning, is that Stephen King is kind of all over the place sometimes, and he has his highs and his lows. So I think it's fair to say, what problems did we have with the book, or anything that we would do differently?
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the reasons why you can be critical of the book is the movie's much better. And you can't often say that where a movie improves upon a book, but Marty is a much more active character in the movie, right? Marty and his sister's a much more active character in the movie. They are collectively who figure out, they don't just stumble upon Reverend Lowe. They go looking for him. They have they're raising money for, I forget what charity it is, but they're out looking. And so Marty is a much more active protagonist, and I think it makes the story better. And they still keep most of the kills. They just condense them over the course of a summer instead of over the course of a whole year. But just the fact of giving flesh and blood people to portray some of those characters that King only gets like a page to briefly outline, getting a real person playing them and voicing them it creates a lot more humanity in that town of Tarker Mills. At least it feels like to me, and it makes it a little scarier. So I mean, I think that would be my first criticism of the book is, yeah, no, they even saw it and fixed those things in the movie.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It is pretty brief. It's short. I mean, he was trying to write it for a calendar. It was what I read.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's just a bunch. It's just 12 short stories, and it could definitely have been longer. And I mean, if this was written now, it would be Stranger Things, and it'd be a whole season, and it'd be a lot longer. And so, yeah. Anything
Yeah.
that bugged you, Chris, or anything that you thought that stuck out? It was like, oh, it's a little clunky.
I mean, certainly it shows its age in some ways. It shows how dated it. You know, there's some references and stuff that just are not fun to read these days. You know, but other than that, I mean, I think it's perfectly functional for what it is. And so, but I guess then my critique would be, it is functional, and there's not a lot more to it than that, right? It is functional as a werewolf story. I do like the subversions, right? I do like. I think that's a great thing to point out, that especially the victims. There are a lot of subversions here that I think are interesting, and he does gloss over the things that we mostly know, that we don't need to be bogged down by like an info dump on. Well, now let us tell you, every full moon is when the werewolf blah blah blah. It's like, no, just throw us in. We're good. Yeah, we got it. And so some things go well here too. But yeah, I mean, I can see the point that a movie would do this a little bit better, right? Because there's so little characterization here to work with, that it's hard to be more invested, other than just kind of a novelty werewolf story. But yeah, with a little bit more investment, I can see where this could be a really compelling story, especially if you do flesh out the characters of Marty and his sister. And I think there are some interesting aspects, like I said, about the priest, Lowe, and you know, he is a compelling character. Like, he is clearly has good intentions on some levels, but also doesn't care to let people die in another level, right? Like, he's not very concerned about it, so that's interesting, and I think that could be explored more. So yeah, I mean, it's perfectly functional. I think and there are some very interesting aspects to it, but I would love to see just a more fleshed out version, especially of all these characters and what they have to offer.
Yeah, that's a great point. What do you think, Katie?
Man, so King's got an afterword on this, right? Where he's like, for all of you moon, and I don't like that he did this, actually. The whole, for all of you moon watchers, I know I didn't follow the cycle right, and I did it on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't care, actually. Like, take your creative liberty. You had the full moon part of it. Yeah, I mean, he picks Valentine's Day, 4th of July. Like, he does pick the significant parts of a month where the moon's full. And that's fine by me. I don't think his afterword was necessary to be like, yeah, I knew that yes, you are writing a werewolf story that's not entirely based in reality. So yes, you can predict when the moon is going to be full, sir.
Yep.
So I don't know why the afterword, like, I read that and I was like, well, duh. Like, I don't know why you had to comment on that, but okay. But yeah, I mean, that's just what it is. It's just a werewolf story. Like, do I care about any of these characters? No, not really. Like, Marty's the protagonist. Do I really still care about Marty? No. I don't have any connection to any of the characters at all. I know it's a novella, but even still, like, if you asked me what characters I cared for, I didn't and don't.
Yeah, I've cared for I've read, flash fiction that has characters that are more like that are more immersive than these ones, which isn't necessarily a dig on this story. It's just
No.
like they're it's not the point of this story, right? It's clearly not the point, and that's fine. It's fine. But yeah, it's not. I do prefer stories that have a little bit more character. So yeah.
Yeah, as far as like seminal works go, this is not one of Stephen King's seminal works. This is not a, and it. I don't know that it's even really a seminal werewolf story, but it is a good story. It feels a lot like a campfire story.
It does.
Or
yes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the feeling I got when I was reading it. Was like I felt like this would be fun to read out in the woods while I was camping, and that would be a good story that way. It also felt very serialized. It felt like reading something that was getting published once a week or once a month, and then was put together. So in that way, and I had to think back. I do like those kind of stories. I like the Three Musketeers. I like Sherlock Holmes. I like those kind of things where a little bit's published every week in a newspaper, and then they put them all together and call it a book or whatever. But yeah, is it trying to tell us something? Is it Frankenstein? No. Is it Dracula? No. But it's a fun, quick read, and I think it's a good story. It's a good campfire story. What do you think? Would you recommend it? And who would you recommend it to? It's time to give your final verdict on this. Would you recommend it? And if so or not, who would you recommend it to? I think that's what we want to go here.
Yeah, I mean, I would not recommend it to everyone. And there are many. If somebody was asking for a horror story in general, there are hundreds of other ones I would recommend before this one. But werewolf wise, and you know, I'm interested if Lon agrees with this because he seems clearly much more read than I and watched than I am in the werewolf genre. I certainly would. I think that's definitely an audience that would be, werewolf aficionados, where people who are just love that type of monster and that type of story. I think there are things they could really find interesting here.
Yeah, no, I obviously did recommend it.
Oh yeah,
I
right.
recommended it to Ryan.
Really recommended it.
The thing I like about it, and one of the reasons why I do recommend it, some of the people I do recommend it are people who maybe reading isn't a big thing for, because it is so fast. And it is so, it's the kind of thing that you can give to somebody who's like, I don't know, man, I don't really want to read a 400-page, and you can be like this. You can finish this in a weekend, right? Even if you're not a fast reader, you can, I can read this in an evening. Someone who's a serious reader. And so I've successfully sometimes been, people are like, oh, I don't really want to read Stephen King because The Stand, you could kill somebody with that.
Yeah.
But Cycle of the Werewolf, there you go. You can stick this in your pocket and take it camping, right? Like, I mean, it's lean and it's tight. And so for people who are horror aficionados, would like to read, but maybe don't want to get locked into, a 13-book cycle or something, this is a great, just pulpy, fast. And you're right, it doesn't really stick around, but it leaves, it's like chewing gum in some respects, right? Or a candy bar. It tastes good, the experience is fun, and then you set it aside and you move on, and maybe you go to something bigger. So
I like the idea of it being an introduction. What do you think, Katie? Yes, no, and who would you recommend it to?
I would recommend it in an academic setting for like a folklore class, as here is a subsect of how a werewolf story is interpreted. It's short, it's serialized. I'd recommend it in an academic setting. I don't think I would recommend it as a casual read. Because like everyone's already said, I can think of 100 different other casual even quick reads that I would recommend over this. And if I'm recommending King, I'm going to recommend like Green Mile or something where like King really can show off. Like King can write. We know this. This is not where we show that King can write. stories. But I think as an academic setting, or even actually, I would recommend it on an idea generation too. Like with Rue from Ruin, this could be kind of a good supplement as a, hey, look at this other piece of literature, this other thing that has taken an audience assumption, like knows that their audience is smart enough to know about the werewolf already, and look what they've done with only assumptions, which is what King did really well at that. He wrote a story based purely on what other people know about werewolves. And that's it.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of game books. I remember um, Werewolf the Apocalypse from World of Darkness and stuff. There was a whole section in the back of these are things you should read to help you get the feel for the game you might be playing and stuff. And I could see this as a great supplement for getting into the mood of like, okay, this is some things that werewolves do, and this is what they could be like. Yeah, I like that a lot. Well, awesome. I would recommend it as well. And I think go with the way that Lon was saying it. I would recommend it to somebody who wanted to read I think of my son who doesn't read very much at all, hates reading. But if I wanted to have give him something quick and say, hey, read this and let's talk about it, and it'll be a fun Halloween-y kind of thing or whatever, this would be one that I would give him because he could finish it really fast. And I think it would hold his attention. And I think that's something this book does well, is it holds your attention in like, oh, that was striking. Oh, that was striking. And then when you start to see that there is a mystery to figure out in it, then you want to figure it out. And then it doesn't take that long to figure it out. So, yeah, not necessarily a young reader. He's my son, but I wouldn't give it to like a young reader necessarily, because like it is aged, but I would give it to somebody who is like, hey, here's something that might get you reading and see what reading can do. And let's talk about some of these cool scenes in it, because there's a bunch of scenes. So yeah, great. Very pulpy, for sure. If you like pulp fiction, if somebody liked pulp fiction a lot, I would recommend this to them too. So I just don't know too many people that are big pulp fiction fans anymore. I'm sure they are out there, and I'd love to hear from them, and I'd love to do some more pulp fiction books in the future. One more time, really quick, just tell people where they can find you. And I just want to say again, thank you for joining us for this hour and talking about this and taking the time to read the book with us. Really fascinating stuff and some good things we talked about. So hopefully that's helpful to the people watching. Lon, where can people find you at?
So YouTube, Full Moon Film Buff. That'll get you there. Try and put up an episode a week. So that's where I'm at. I'm getting close to having to do the Twilight series, so you have that to look forward to. My daughters are very excited to watch that with me. I've never seen it before. So there you go.
God bless you, Lon Franson. All right,
Yeah.
Katie. Katie, where can people find you?
Let's see, where can people find me? Well, they can find the solo RPG Rue from Ruin, written by myself and Will Munn, at adepticarus.com. And you can find me with my home crew, Level 1 Geek, at level1geek.com, where we do a lot of actual plays. Right now, we are on our third season of Stolen Fate, which is a Pathfinder AP.
Awesome. Love more Pathfinder people out here. I will put both of those in the show notes too, in case anybody in the description below, if anybody wants to check those out. Christopher, where can we find your books?
Yeah, christopherhesburg.com. You can find information about me there. My books are on Amazon or wherever. Yeah, hopefully I've got a science fiction horror novel coming. I just sent it to my agent, so I'm excited about it. We'll see what comes of that. But
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, my website's the best way to find me. So
my favorite horror things are science fiction horror. I really
yeah,
drawn to that.
So genre. I like it a lot.
Excited to read that. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and appreciate you joining us today, and look forward to seeing everybody again next month. I don't have the book chosen yet, but as soon as I do, we'll put it out there. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Thank you.